Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary.
The year is 3013. The galaxy is scintillating in the mellow light. Two galactic pilgrims seek out vistas in the samurai future to bring forth the unity of the cosmic shaman. Opening the door of the pantheon of mystics, the evil sorcerer wizard powers the engine of science, seeking to forever alter the sacred balance, traveling on effervescent balls of summer fire.
This week, Batman, The Dark Knight Returns.
In the year 1939, Bob Kane created Batman. Just Bob Kane. No one else was involved. Who is Bill Finger? Shut the fuck up.
I hear somebody getting fingered.
I noticed that in the credits of this one, it still just says Batman created by Bob Kane.
That changed a few years ago, right?
Right. So when did this come out?
2012.
Oh, really?
I think.
Oh, I thought it was more recent than that.
Nah.
Okay, so we are talking about
Batman.
The Dark Knight Rises. Nope.
Nope.
The Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Nope, that's a sequel. Comic book sequel.
The Dark Knight
Returns. It is hard to, especially with Rise and Returns, I get it mixed up which one's which.
Yeah. So this is the animated version of the Frank Miller graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns.
I first read the graphic novel maybe 10 or 11 years old, so it would have been 3 or 4 years after it came out. I think I got it by mail order.
As issues or as a graphic novel?
As the full... I did not read the 4 issues. Oh, the 4 issues, by the way, all have different titles. First one's The Dark Knight Returns. Second one's just The Dark Knight. Third one's like Hunt the Dark Knight. And the fourth one I don't remember. So, but when they compiled them, they were just like, it's all The Dark Knight Returns. And yeah, it hit me with a lightning blast. I think I got this, and I got the Eastman and Laird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles compilation together.
Nice.
So I got my full hit of, dark comic, gritty. Well, it's not a gritty reboot in the Ninja Turtles. It's like the first one was gritty, and everything else doesn't reboot it that way.
Yeah, well, Ninja Turtles is a spoof of the concept of grittiness, right?
Yeah.
And this is like grittiness taking so far it accidentally becomes a spoof. So.
Well, the thing is, the comic code came into creation in the mid-'50s, I think.
Right.
And that's when Batman started to become silly. Look up silly Batman covers. You'll have a real good time.
Oh, yeah.
And then, Adam West's Batman did not help that. In the 70s, they started to get like a little bit darker, but, still a little goofy.
At 70s, I always picture like the very gothic Batman. Like really long ears, he's quite skinny. Curled and long cloaks.
Anyway, I think in the mid-'80s, it was like the Batman editor became the editor-in-chief of DC and commissioned this. Frank Miller, the writer and artist, had already had his Daredevil run by this case. Anything else?
No, because most of the stuff I think of Frank Miller is after this. So like he did like Year One, stuff like that.
Yeah. He had a notable run on Daredevil though. That's the whole Elektra thing.
Yeah.
All of that.
That's when Daredevil was like homeless and just constantly grim shit is happening to him.
So we
I don't know if this is true. In my head, I always imagined Frank Miller must have done some Punisher stuff.
That sounds right.
Like, he just comes across as a Punisher guy. That might not be true at all, but...
That definitely sounds... if it's not right, it sounds wild.
Right.
So, this did kick me in the head, like, I guess, about 3 years later, and I was still, 10 or whatever, but it got me the head kick. And, I remember feeling like, should I be reading this? It's got, they say shit in it and stuff.
So I would have read it, I guess, in my teens. I don't think it had... So by the time I was reading this, there had been a lot of gritty comics and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't remember it hitting me as hard, but I do remember being like, oh, this is really going places with Batman.
Now, before we get to the movie, which is the main point here, I will say it's not quite my favorite Batman story.
Oh, it's not for me at all.
Okay.
It's not my favorite Batman, and I actively dislike this portrayal of Superman.
Okay, I can see. I like it, but I see where you're coming from. Before we get to the movie, hit me with your best comic book Batman.
Best comic book Batman.
Because I suggested this to Luke, saying this is the best Batman movie, and I might be backing that up. But best comic book Batman first. I guess I'll go first. I really like. Is it The Long Halloween?
Yeah. Oh, that might be mine.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's the whole crime boss thing. The other one is super obscure. It's Matt Wagner did a 3-issue run in Legends of the Dark Knight called Masks.
I may have read that.
Okay, it's
I have read a
super
lot
noir
of
looking.
But
Super noir looking.
oh, okay. My favorite Batman might be No Man's Land.
I know what it is, but I haven't read it.
Yeah. So Gotham is like hit by an earthquake and there's no outside.
Right.
Well, another one of the influences on Dark Knight Rises, right?
Yeah.
But it's Batman. He doesn't quite have access to all his gadgets and stuff. But mostly my favorite Batman are when they lean more in the detective side.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a specific example. But
That's
when I read an issue, which is
Masks and Long Halloween both do that
Yeah.
extensively. Dark Knight Rises did it. Dark Knight Returns does that to a point, but yeah, it definitely gets into just him getting his groove back and punching the crap out of people eventually. This is I'm mixing the 2 and the 5 in my head. This is either the 12th or 15th DC animated movie.
Okay.
Something like that. They'd already done. They'd done Justice League New Frontiers animated. They'd done Batman Red Hood. I think they'd already done year 1 animated when this came out.
This is the first of these I've seen.
Really?
But I've heard really good things about all these DC animated films.
Yeah.
And this backed it up.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed they were going to be like barely animated. It's just the panels from the comic and some voices.
No,
web
they put some money in
shit.
this.
But no, these are really good.
Yeah. Okay. You got to see some more of these. Anyway, this one came out in 2 parts originally. So it would be the first 2 issues of comic, second 2 issues of comic.
I read it. I watched it as the 2 parts. I watched Friday night, part 1. Saturday night, I watched 2001: Space Odyssey. Sunday night, I watched part 2.
Oh, okay. So I remember it was like maybe November 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it pretty much. I wanted to see it because I love the story. I liked it, and you had to wait like 6 months for part 2. So and then in late 2013 they put the whole thing out together. So that was mildly annoying, but it was annoying for a year.
I guess we're going to be... Most of what we're talking about will be applicable to both the comic book and the film. It's a pretty faithful adaptation, right?
It is, but in preparation for the podcast, I watched all of this movie. I watched 2001, and then I reread the comic, and the core is definitely not screwed with, but there's more change than I thought.
Oh,
I thought the only changes were Gordon doesn't smoke cigars, but he has like Nicorette gum.
Yeah.
And you see Sarah here, and you don't in the comic book.
Right.
Except in silhouette. And you see more Superman in the movie, whereas he's shown as mostly an enigma in the comic book.
Once you fight him, you see him.
No, in the when he first talks to Bruce, when Bruce is in the old woman outfit, you see him very clearly in the movie.
Right.
He's just a blue blur in the...
Yeah,
and when he stops the train, it's just a blur stopping the train. It's not...
But in the movie, it's mostly just a blur in those scenes.
But you see him actually stopping the train.
No, he blows past, and then you see the handprints.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Anyway, you see a little more Superman in this than you do in the comic book. But, I guess that's... You got to sell
Money
some
shot, man.
tickets to the DVDs.
There are people who are buying this doing it to see Superman.
But this is... Yeah, I don't
But there's
think...
no, big plot changes or...
Nah, nothing.
And I think the cigarette thing would just be a ratings thing, right? I think showing smoking it gets you a higher rating these days.
I think this still got a PG-13 rating.
Yeah, but it might even be higher than that.
Oh, the one thing that the swastika pasties, when I saw it, that's why I was holding my breath for part 2. I think I was like, are they going to really put in the swastika pasties? And yes, they did.
Yep.
Bruno's swastika pasties.
So flat there can't be a nipple under there.
Yeah. Swastikas, until the 1930s, were a sign of balance and peace.
Well, they're still everywhere here.
Yeah, I know. In Japan, there are shrines.
I'm not quite used to it yet.
Whereas the peace sign is a man hanging upside down on a cross, like his legs broken.
It's a man. We're talking about the classic, the circle.
Yeah.
It's a man with his hands down in dejection because the artist who created that symbol did not believe there was a chance for peace.
Oh, okay.
He
yeah.
tried to revise it to a man with his hands up in celebration, but it didn't catch on.
So if we ignore the 1930s and 1940s, the swastika is a good symbol
Well, it's
for
not
peace.
quite the same symbol. The swastika is mirrored and angled.
Right, but no, I mean...
But yeah, well, you don't look at that when you see a swastika,
No,
right?
no, I mean, Native American tribes used it. In the headdresses, they also had lots of swastikas in there. But
it's on a map. It's the symbol for a Buddhist map.
Bruno's pasties is definitely a Nazi reference, followed by
Yes.
her two formerly mutant brown shirts. So, in this case, yes, it's Nazis. Anyway, the story?
Yeah, I guess. Let's get into it. In a vague date in the future, 10 years after superheroes have ceased their activities, Gotham City has once again been overrun by crime, and the Batman comes out of retirement to deal with it. That's the plot, right?
That's the first part of the plot. Keep going. We got mutants, we got Two-Face.
I know. Seeing Batman's return reawakens his villains. Two-Face is the first to raise his faces,
Raises
but now
species.
only one face. But is it the face of beauty or the face of pain? Batman punches him. The mutants rule the city with an evil empire of crime, but Batman punches their leader. The Joker comes back from retirement, and Batman punches him. And Superman is brought in to cease Batman's activities, and Batman punches him. It's Batman, the Punchening.
Start talking about specifically the movie,
Okay.
not the comic, which means we're going to talk about the voice actors. All that punching, Peter Weller's doing Batman's voice, so of course he gets to punch everyone.
Yeah, so all through before I watched it, you had told me who the voice was, but I'd forgotten. And all through the first half, I was trying to remember. And then, I can't remember if I cottoned on or if I saw it in the credits or whatever. But all through the second part, I could only hear RoboCop.
Oh yeah, start this one over. You're only going to hear RoboCop.
Yeah.
But he gets to deliver what the line's like. You don't get it, son. I'm the surgeon, and this is the surgery table.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. It's badass in the comic book, but when it's fucking RoboCop saying it, holy
He's
shit.
really good at those lines. When he does the speeches near the end, I don't think he quite had the gravitas for that.
I don't know. I'm a big I'm a big RoboCop.
I
Didn't bother me.
fucking love RoboCop. But RoboCop is a very different character to Batman.
True.
RoboCop is cold, whereas Batman is all rage, right? So,
But this Batman's a little colder.
Well, he's
'cause
older,
he's been colder and older, and he's a little dead inside compared to the fire of young Batman.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, for the most part, I did love his performance, but there were just a few moments where I was like, when he's giving a big speech to a crowd or whatever, it felt like it needed a bit more energy.
The other major voice actor here would be Michael Emerson.
Joker?
Yes, he was Ben on Lost. He was in the show Proof of Interest.
I don't know. Person of interest?
Yes, thank you. He was in.
I've not seen that
I heard
show.
it was okay, but I haven't seen it. Anyway, Ben from Lost was great, and him as the Joker.
It's so... But ever since, I guess...
Mark Hamill? Caesar Romero?
No.
Caesar Romero?
Here's
Jack Nicholson?
Jack Nicholson. Ever since Jack Nicholson has been a very specific Joker voice, right? Which is what Mark Hamill is essentially doing. It's what even Heath Ledger was kind of doing.
Yeah, and they do it well, but...
But this is a very different voice.
Yeah.
And it works in a very different way.
Just like Ben from Lost, it's like you kind of want to like him, but he's just so evil.
Yeah, like this is the most I think I've hated the Joker. In a good way. Like, I hated Suicide Squad's Joker in a very different way. But this one, I hated him like I was supposed to, right?
Yeah, just, I know, when he gives a line at the talk show, like, I'm going to kill everyone in the room. Like, it's pretty cold in the comic book, but you're kind of hearing the Nicholson voice in your head. But here, it's just like, whoa! Everyone just laughs. Oh, you're such a comedian. And then he kills everyone in the room.
Yep.
That was cool. Honestly, I'm sure there's a few other notable voice actors in here, but those are the ones sort of filed in my mental Rolodex.
Those are the two I noticed, yeah. They're like, all the voices were okay, but those are the two that stood out was like, wow.
Yeah. There's one voice notably missing here, which is most of the comic. Oh, I was just going to talk about the movie. Anyway, this is in regards to the movie. Bruce Wayne's monologue is a major, major, major part of the comic. And so is the Joker's. And of course, we can't have a monologue here. That'd be stupid. They mostly get around it, but I wrote in my notes here somewhere that honestly, Bruce Wayne's internal monologue could just be a continual repeat of, I'm Batman! And that'd be fine.
Yeah. Well, because the scene where he comes back, they kind of did that, right?
Yeah.
That's the one bit where you do get the internal monologue.
But yeah, you get it all over, like in the race car in the beginning, it's him monologuing like about, this would be a good death, but not good enough. And I do like in the comics, having just read that when he's in his old lady costume, which is the best Batman costume ever. He should have kept it. Right?
Yeah.
When Bruno's shooting him and the gun misfires, he's like, this would be a stupid death. I'm glad she missed.
Well, I mean, that is kind of the plot of this film, right? I think he wants to die.
Yeah. Well, Alfred says, does he say in the movie?
There's better ways you can kill yourself. I've got an old family
my
recipe.
family, it's very slow and very painful. You'd love it.
Yeah.
Something in the movie that's very much not in the comic is the soundtrack, which is quite well done here.
It is. It reminds me of like a lot of recent Batman video games.
Yeah.
Where they're like echoing the good Batman themes, but they haven't quite written one.
Here's why it worked. They have some of that going, but they have all that like kind of like techno stuff too.
Yeah, that's
which
cool.
is kind of cheesy. But you said here's what I say. You said at a undetermined time in the future. I see this as taking place in 1986 or 1987, and Batman had retired in the mid-70s.
That kind of works best.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, I guess we have to justify this as a sci-fi film. For the most part, it's not that futuristic from when it was written, right?
It's got nuclear explosions, superheroes, and Batman's suit of armor, which was the best thing ever until they tried to redo it and Dawn of Justice.
Rewatching this reminded me how much a lot of recent Batman stuff has lent on this comic book. So we'll come back to that later.
Yeah, because you mentioned No Man's Land kind of got to the Gotham. But this in Dark Knight Rises with Gotham being shut off, but this also sort of has it.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll get to this does a lot of stuff which all the films have been ripping on, so we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But like with any superhero stuff, you want that superhero to have like a main theme, right? And there are a couple moments where Batman has a big heroic entrance, but the music just doesn't quite have a Batman theme.
I thought it had like a 1986, 1987 theme, and that worked for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's not like...
Again, it wasn't a bad soundtrack.
Yeah.
It just didn't quite have that final bit that pushes it over the line.
I agree. It's not a master. We last week was 2001, where that's not even that's several composers from the past, but that's a perfect soundtrack. This one's fine.
Right.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
Another thing, the first few times I saw this movie, I felt like, oh man, the animation style really does look like the comic Dark Knight Returns, like thrown straight on the screen. How do you feel about that?
There a couple shots specifically really did.
Yeah.
Like the front cover, the jumping by front of the lightning and stuff. It looked a little cleaner and smoother than Miller's art. But of course it did. It's animated, right?
It is. I having just gone back to the comic, I did note, I think it's Lynn Varney who's the colorist.
Yeah.
Oh, and having basically few times I did this story, I watched the movie, so going back to the comic, like, whoa, that is a good coloring job.
Yeah.
Some of it's almost in black and white. Mm-hmm. Some of it is in vibrant color. And actually, when I went back to reread it, first I looked at, it was Dark Knight Returns Noir, where it just is black and white. Oh, you can appreciate Claus Jansen's inks and stuff. And no, I need the color.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it is noir. When they're in the police station, it's almost completely black and white anyway. So I did appreciate the coloring job. The movie colors look fine, but that, being able to take panel by panel and just do a job on it.
Yeah, if they tried to do that with this, it would have gotten a bit too artsy and...
Yeah, it would have come out looking like Waking Life or something. Yeah. But I did reappreciate the coloring job of the comic, having seen the, obviously, not dumbed down, but simplified for practicality sake of animation.
There were also one or two moments of too obvious CG.
What are those?
Like Superman up in the clouds.
Okay.
And the racing car at the start.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, that was a bit like early 2000s anime for me.
Right.
Hand-drawn characters in front of... But for the most part, I'm sure they used a lot of computer effects and I didn't notice. So it's just that those two are the ones that stood out as being too different from the main art for me.
Yes. Don't go all Billy on me. Show me your nasty spud. Slice and dice.
I'm slicing and dicing. I slice and dice. I slice and dice.
We were talking about getting into the story, and we're like, why don't we just... This is Batman. We talk about the Rogues Gallery. We hit them one by one. First, up in our Rogues Gallery.
Two-Face.
Who only has one face in this movie.
I really like this Two-Face depiction. Like, he's healed, they fixed his face, they fixed his mind, and then just that final moment where you realise, he sees both sides are ugly now.
Yeah, exactly.
And, that makes you ask the question, the whole time, which face was the evil face?
Is this more effective than the Dark Knight movies, Harvey Dent arc? That's a good one, Eric. Aaron Eckhart's good, but who nailed it?
Right, that arc didn't really have an ending. He just dies.
I think it's, like you said with comic books before, it's too short. I mean, he's like Two-Face for a day?
Yeah.
Whereas here he's been Two-Face for years. He's done a whole lot of horrible things. He's been in prison for the past 12 years.
Well, this is the thing which I think, comic book movies are finally catching on to, they can do is... They don't have to show everyone's origin. This film works because, you know who Batman is and who these villains are. So we can start the story when they've already had decades of back and forth.
It still gets in Bruce's origin story.
Of course. You got to.
This is one of the best versions, though.
Yeah, because it's short.
But, again, I told you I just read the comic, and Batman isn't quite as obsessed in finding out... what's happened to Harvey in the movie. He's just like, I'm stopping Two-Face, right?
Right.
Where in the comic, it's like, he's falling, he's going to fall his death out, and I have to find out if that's really him, and, dive bombs him into the, it definitely comes through when he unmasks him, but it is made a little more of an obsession, I'm doing this, I could stop this more easily, but I have to find out if this is really Harvey.
One thing I really like, and I'll get into... the character and the politics of this film and of Batman later, but Bruce Wayne is funding his treatment and believes Harvey can be healed.
Yeah, he's arguing with Gordon. He's like, I think Harvey's fine.
Right, but just the idea that Batman does believe in that these people can be redeemed is so key to understanding the character, because Batman doesn't kill.
Right.
And there's always the argument why doesn't he just kill, which we'll get into later with this one, why doesn't he just kill these villains? But they are mentally unwell people. And if Batman left it to the police, they would be killed.
Well, Harvey specifically...
But Batman is saving them, in a way.
Harvey specifically used to be the White Knight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the Dark Knight movie works so well because Harvey is the
It
hero
leans
until
into
he's
Harvey
not.
Dent more than it does Two-Face.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
the right way to do that.
This one definitely goes Two-Face, but it's saying like there is no Harvey Dent. It's just Two-Face now.
Right, but they show it through Harvey Dent. But I think the film lets us assume that Batman has tried to do this for all of his villains. He wants to save them. There's a reason he didn't kill them, because he believes everyone can be redeemed.
Right.
Which I think is, for all the dark, brooding, violent aspects of Batman, that's what makes him interesting. That's why I prefer Batman to, say, the Punisher.
Yes. So after that, and maybe not everyone can be redeemed, and now we get the mutants.
They are just kind of here to be the cannon fodder villains, but
They serve here to be the irredeemable villains, which he does redeem most of the followers. It's the leader who is he irredeemable?
well, but again, he only deals with him a bit. Like we don't like he's been dealing with Two-Face and Joker for a long time, whereas the leader of the mutants, he's still at the point of okay, I need to stop his crime spree stage in this.
I want to call him Billy Berserk.
Is that a name you've come up with, or?
No, they say it several times. He Billy Berserk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they don't name him right, but I'm like, his name should be Billy Berserk. I'm gonna say that. I'm putting that down now. It's now canon because our podcast is so awesome. That guy's name is Billy Berserk.
Okay. Well, with Billy Berserk, you don't really get the detective side of Batman, but
You get the
some
tactical
very
side.
cool fights.
You get the
And I think
tactical side of Batman.
yeah. Both fights with him are such good, just knockdown slugfest brawls.
So would younger Batman have taken out
He'd have taken him down in that first fight.
in the first fight?
But yeah, I love everything about like he's setting it up so that they're in a place where he knows he can win the fight. They've got an audience so that he can show this guy. It's such a good scene.
No, you
And
said the
then
detective part's
bam,
missing,
takes
but I guess that's where I was like, oh, I think there's some detective stuff here. He's not doing detective stuff, but he's definitely doing tactical stuff. Because he can't actually just punch everyone anymore, at least not without us setting up the situation correctly.
Yeah.
Which is what he does in multiple cases.
He is still the smart Batman in this, and that's... You haven't played the recent Batman games, right?
The last Batman game I played was Batman on Super Nintendo.
Okay. Well, recently there was a trilogy, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. And what made them so... They really made you feel like Batman. Because they had a very good stealth system where you, like, pick off a room full of bad guys. And they're, like, getting more and more scared of you. So, like, it had, like, just kung fu and fighting. But the best bits were the bits where you used tactics. And you really felt like Batman. And, like, there's a couple really good boss fights. There's one with Mr. Freeze, where there's various different ways to hide.
Nice to see you.
There's all these different ways in this room to hide and damage him and hurt him. And yeah, that's what Batman is. I like seeing a kung fu fight now and then, but that's not what makes Batman so interesting. Is when he's more like a horror villain.
Yeah.
That's why this film does it, and the Nolan films do it. You kind of see the fight through the criminal's eyes, and Batman is just this thing stalking them in the shadows and stuff. That was all cool.
Yeah, when he first shows up, definitely. That's how you introduce Batman. You don't show the crime alley thing. You show him like stealthily taking on some thugs.
One of the reasons I hate the Tim Burton one. The first time we see Batman, he just stands there and gets shot.
He has some pretty hip armor. What if they shoot him in the face, though?
So not Batman.
I think this was in the movie, but somewhere in here, it's like, that's why I wear armor, as long as they don't shoot me in the teeth. It actually mentions that, like, I think it was with Superman, where it's like, I can handle him unless he goes for my teeth.
Although a good gag I really liked, I think it was a webcomic or something. They're talking about the whole thing how Batman's armor is all black, and then most of the armor is behind the yellow symbol on his chest, because that's where people will shoot, right? And then Robin's like, why is my costume so colourful?
That's a quote in the comic. That's why I wear a target, so they don't go for my teeth. I think that's what it was. Anyway, Billy Berserk, pretty two-dimensional. Fun, but two-dimensional.
But yeah, he is just there to be the leader of the street thugs, because all the other villains behind bars. And
Yeah.
you've got to have street thugs in a Batman story.
So our next up is, I guess we're going to put the police here.
Okay, yeah.
Sting and Stuart Copeland and Every Breath You Take.
I mean, that's a stalkery song, so you can put that under a supervillain. I mean, yeah, the greatest villain of all, the police force. So. always one of the most interesting Batman dynamics is him and the police. And of course, this film starts with him in the Jim Gordon is commissioner, Batman's just allowed to do this phase. But then they bring in the other commissioner, and you get Batman is at odds with the police force, which is much more interesting to see.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. Ellen Yendel is a good character. I mean, you kind of support her. You know, she makes sense.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong. Well, she's not right, but she's not wrong.
We'll talk about Batman later, but one of the things with Batman is Batman doesn't make sense in our world. But he doesn't live in our world. He lives in Batman's world, where you do need a Batman.
Well, it's, I know when he's talking to Superman later, it's like, you're acting like a criminal. And he's like, I said it years ago. We've always been criminals.
But even she, by the end of this one, learns to just, like, he's too big for me, right?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely echo this in some of the movies, as you just quoted.
Yep. But yeah, the scenes of him... Okay, here's something I don't get. It happened in this, and it was also ripped off in The Amazing Spider-Man. Police commissioners can't issue arrest warrants, can they? I thought you had to be a judge to issue an arrest warrant.
I don't know.
I mean, you can say, we have decided to pursue this criminal and arrest him.
Let's
but you don't issue a warrant.
Okay, let's assume she went to the judge earlier in the day,
Right.
got the warrant because she knew she was about to become police commissioner and is now issuing the warrant.
Yeah.
So the judge issues the warrant, but she, as police commissioner, would publicize it?
Yeah, I guess so. It just in this... Oh. Shit, the police are coming.
They're coming. Get the bat gun in the copter, the Batmobile. Oh, they're gone. Okay, anyway. I guess the person who publicizes it, maybe the police commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that the police commissioner would, in a speech, say, I'm going to try and arrest this man. But just that scene where they say, I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
And it bugged me in The Amazing Spider-Man, and now I realise that not only is it a dumb scene, they stole it from this.
But yeah, you know, Batman, honestly, if you want a good Batman story, you should probably be at odds with the police. Jim Gordon's a problem for Batman in the end.
Yeah, it makes it less. But it also, if you've got other stories you want to write, you want to get the police out of the picture for a bit.
True.
And I can see why they do it.
Gary Oldman's cool too.
I love Gary Oldman in everything. So he's the one who actually deserved the Best Supporting Actor Oscar.
And the star member of our Rogues Gallery.
We still got 2 left. We got time.
Okay, I was calling the next one the star. I don't care about the last one as much.
Okay, but he's more of a fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously.
For me, this is... I put in my notes, when Batman and the Joker are finished, when the Joker decides to snap his own neck, that's the end of Batman. The rest of it is other stuff.
Right.
The Batman ends when the Joker dies.
Pretty much.
That's why I'm calling him the star. That's how I feel about it.
But yeah, this is a very well done Joker.
Yeah. And, you know, the other really well done Joker would be the Batman Lego movie.
Yes.
All he wants Batman to do is tell him he hates him. And that's here too.
Yeah, well, that's why I haven't seen it yet. I have such big reservations about the Joker movie. To me, the point of the Joker is that he is a response to Batman. So a Joker movie with no Batman just does not make sense to me.
No, the Joker is just a mute. He's basically a vegetable until Batman shows up again.
Yeah, because that's his reason for existing.
Right.
But he is a perfect foil to dark, brooding, never laughs at anything Batman. Is just this asshole, laughs at everything. But yeah, they make him such an asshole in this one.
And you
can't root for him like you can a lot of the other Jokers.
But he's such an exquisite asshole. You can't root for him, but he's just...
Oh, he's great, but he's just also, I hate him. He's perfect. He's a perfect villain.
No, he's a perfect Joker. That's why I talked about Mark Hamill basically doing the Joker as Luke Skywalker when he came back, which is great. I like his Joker, but this is my favorite Joker, I think.
Like when he's doing, just indiscriminate killing, right? Which Jokers do. But I hated it in this. I don't know why, but
Because there's no point to it. He really has no reason to be doing that.
Yeah, he's just like, he's running through the tunnel, he's just shooting civilians.
Yeah, he's just being a dick.
Maybe it's just that we're at a point in the real world where that's a bit too real. But yeah, that just felt hateful, and I was like, yeah, Batman, get him.
Yeah, well, again, this is where Bruce am I actually going to kill this guy now?
Yeah.
Which he almost does.
I guess in this case, he's given him long enough to be like, oh no, this one is irredeemable.
Right. But in the end, he still doesn't actually kill him. The Joker
Finishes himself off.
He does throw a batarang in his eye, though. That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
I think that's when Joker's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, I think he literally says that.
Yeah.
He hasn't dealt with Batman like this before.
Okay, anyway.
Never met a bat like you before.
And I like that Batman is charged for his murder, although technically the Joker killed himself in the end.
Yeah, but I guess they can't tell that when they get.
No, of course
And
they
also,
can only-
Batman incinerates the body.
Yeah, only
If
Batman
there was
knows.
any evidence. Then.
Exactly. And, okay, so the Joker was my star villain, but your star villain is?
Superman.
Yeah.
For me, one of the most interesting things about Batman is that he is just a man amongst gods. And I like that he can always beat the others. But I also hate this depiction of Superman. It's better than Batman versus Superman.
Oh, way better.
Because
than that.
here, it makes sense that they fight, and they are both acting in character. But this is a mockery of the concept of Superman.
Well, Superman is... So he keeps saying, I'm saving lives. I had to pair up with the, gnarly American government. We're all quiet, I stay quiet, but I save lives, you don't.
Right, but...
I'm not agreeing with him, I'm just saying that's his
I don't like a Superman
argument.
who follows orders, basically.
Ah.
And also, I can't imagine Superman agreeing to stand down any more than Batman.
Okay, there's another comic book where Superman does not follow orders and becomes the one giving orders.
Are you thinking of Red Sun?
No, I was thinking of Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come.
Kingdom Come is so good.
I know. That's where he does give the orders because he sees things going wrong. He's like, okay, I've been laying low, I'm taking charge, and then he makes an absolute mess out of it. Because it's still just, he may have all the powers in the world, but it's just one dude's mind on this, basically.
Look, that's the thing about Superman. The interesting part is not the super, it's the man.
Right.
Superman is a lot more human than Batman is.
What I find interesting is Clark Kent does show up here.
Yeah.
Which, why would he, obviously he's not working for a Daily Planet anymore. Why does he show up as Clark Kent?
Does he still have, does he still married to Lois and stuff?
I don't think...
He's still
No,
pals with
because
Jimmy?
in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, in the sequel to this, he's had a child with Wonder Woman and seems to have a thing with Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And that one sets up basically Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, and Superman against, Batman, the Flash, the Atom, the Elongated Man, and Plastic Man!
Nice.
The sequel is weird, by the way.
Yeah, so they basically they tried to do a civil war.
No, I haven't quite finished. I did start rereading that. When I read it when it came out, it seemed really just absurd and weird. It reads better now. I think Frank Miller is real good at putting his pulse on...
His thumb on the pulse?
His thumb on the pulse.
You're about to say his pulse on the thumb?
Yeah, on the Zygist and seeing... Because I think in Dark Knight Returns, when it first came out, a lot of this might have seemed completely absurd. Whereas
Right.
10 years later, it seems spot on. And Dark Knight Strikes Again, it's not as good as Dark Knight Returns by any means, but the things in there resonate way better today than they did in 2002 or 2003 when it came out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than the fact that Russia is still Soviet, and also the fact that crime has actually mostly gone down
Not in 1986.
in the past 20 years. No, but over time it generally goes down.
Yeah.
But of course you can't write superhero stories unless you imagine crime is going up.
That's why we need the mutants and
Yeah.
Billy Berserk.
But for the most part it's a pretty accurate portrayal of how things have gone. The 24-hour news cycle and the TV talk show circuit and...
That comes along well here. They force it a little bit in the movie. In the comic, there's more of it, and it doesn't seem forced. It just seems to work better that way. But I liked... honestly,
I think it's because the little TV screens as panels
yeah,
works really well
I
in
think
the
that's
comics,
why.
Whereas here it's like cutting from a film to TV.
But that plays kind of like the RoboCop clips to me, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool too. So
Well, RoboCop, another film which very perfectly depicted the future, so, where the villains are the police.
We talked a bunch about the rogues gallery, the villains, including the villain who should be a hero, and maybe there's some heroes that should be villains.
Yeah. So, Batman.
Honestly, I'm pretty much down with Batman here.
Yeah, in this story I am.
Yeah.
But again, because I don't think they did Superman well.
Yeah, you don't read Dark Knight Strikes Again then.
Well, doing this episode has made me really want to do that All-Star Superman.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
because now that we've done this, I want to do a good Superman
I
story.
already tried to sell you on that anyway, so.
Oh, I'm sold. I am sold. I'd have done an episode without if they hadn't made a movie just based on the comic. Fuck it.
I like that would be an interesting contrast. I like that one quite well too. I like both of them. That's the thing. We get very different portrayals, and I like both of them, and they don't really mix with each other because.
No. Superman's just a big dumb idiot in this.
Yeah.
But Batman. So this comic, this film even does call him a fascist.
Oh, several times. I like what Robin's stoned parents keep talking about.
Right.
Fascist, man. Like that time in Chicago. You remember that? Nah. I
Yeah.
was tripping too hard. I love that.
But it kind of made me, like, particularly those scenes, I was like, whose side is Frank Miller on in this?
Yeah. Here's another one. I don't remember if this is in the movie, but it's in the comic where it cuts back to Robin's parents. Like, there's a waft of smoke coming up, and they're like, "Didn't we have a daughter or something?"
So I can understand why she went and joined a fascist. The police force in this are more fascist than Batman is.
Which makes Batman more heroic?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
you often hear the argument, like, oh, Batman, he's this billionaire who beats up random poor people to make himself feel big. But that's a very surface level, which doesn't really actually get to the character of Batman. Because Batman is meant to be fighting, like in Batman Begins does it well. The problem is that the system is corrupt. And that's why you need a Batman figure. Like, if Batman is just beating up muggers and bank robbers and blah blah blah, that's not interesting, right? But Batman is fighting the system which creates these people.
Well, they showed here when Robin is trying to become a superhero and goes and just blows up a 3-card Monte game. I mean, it's stupid.
Right. But Batman doesn't decide to personally beat up every single member of the Mutants gang. He defeats their leader, breaks the organization, and then tries to turn them into a force for good.
And then he rolls into a burning Gotham with those former mutants as the Sons of Batman, which is a pretty Nazi move.
Right, but he goes around and he doesn't send them in to beat people up, to...
Right, he takes their guns away and breaks them, right? Or
Yeah,
breaks
yeah.
at least one as a symbol.
His move is just to help people, to protect people.
But this is another Dark Knight Strikes Again. Near the beginning, he's got some of the Sons of Batman, full-on Batman costumes, doing strikes. And one of them just goes nuts and starts killing guards. And they have to, like, reprimand him, you know? he goes full-on Nazi.
Well, The Dark Knight, the film, gets into that a bit, like Batman copycats. Not quite catching that Batman doesn't kill people.
The comic for Dark Knight Returns has a lot of copycat Batmans. Like, there's a boxer who didn't throw his fight and he, like, lost his senses, so he just goes and blows away a mobster dressed in a Batman costume at a restaurant. And there's another guy. There's several instances where people just, like, are nuts and they end up, you know, doing horrible things dressed as Batman.
But I guess we'll do a section in a minute about this comic book's influence, because it's pretty substantial. But...
Yeah, the movie doesn't... That's why I keep talking the comic here. The movie has no influence. It's real good, but...
I barely knew it existed until
I
you
didn't
made me
tell
watch
you
it.
that, right? But the comic definitely has some serious influence. This
But-
is just like a reverberation of that.
The movie basically is the comic book, right?
More or less.
We're only
yeah.
doing the movie version because we've made this a movie podcast and we want to talk about the comic book, basically.
Yeah.
And I guess it is one of the most sci-fi Batmans.
Yeah, it's mostly the same thing in the comic and the movie. There are some differences, but in the main themes and the main style and all that, they definitely are in an even step.
Yeah, I can see why people would argue Batman is fascist. but that's people who don't understand. Like, within the universe, you would think, oh, this guy's a fascist, he goes around beating people up. But then you have to actually follow him and be like, wait, he never kills anyone. He actually has quite, I don't want to say liberal outlooks, but he isn't quite as hardcore right-wing fascist as you at first think.
Libertarian.
Probably, yeah. Well, he's a fucking billionaire, so he's not a liberal.
No. The Frank Miller Batman is a libertarian. Otherwise, Batman may not be. I think the Frank Miller Batman is very much a libertarian. Again, at least the first sequel, and probably ones after that, reinforce that. But that's going on here, too, I think. Here's something. Today, the people that say they're liberal, are they really liberal? They
Well,
want to
you mean
censor
like the
people.
mainstream parties and stuff? Who wants to censor people, Matt?
No, I don't know. Like just...
What fucking websites have you been reading?
Well, but if I want to look things up on Google, it's getting harder. You don't find things anymore, you know?
Yeah, but that's not the liberals.
Anything.
That's Google.
No, that's censorship. But Silicon Valley's liberal, right? In general. No, they're not? Okay. I
No,
don't know.
man. It's a bunch of millionaire white dudes. Maybe they were once upon a time, but they've accidentally become everything they hated, I think.
Yeah, it's just even putting any of those labels, because people they decide what they decide when they want to decide. So what's the point?
It's becoming
what's the
pretty
point of the label?
complicated, yeah.
So why are we, if we put a label on Batman here, it doesn't mean much, because he might decide something different a few minutes later.
Okay, so let's get away from fascist, libertarian, whatever. Is Batman good?
He's neither. He's not bad. He's not good. He makes the decisions he makes.
But, like, is Batman a force for the betterment of the world he lives in?
No, he's the hero that said we're all criminals.
Yeah.
That's my point. He's the hero that said we are all criminals. Like, what we are doing is against the law, but we do it anyway.
Yeah. I guess, going back to the Dark Knight again, it's that line. He's not the hero they deserve. He's the hero they need right now. Because Gotham is overrun by crime. It is corrupt as hell. And in that situation, you need a Batman.
Right.
So in our world, we don't need a guy to go around beating up muggers. We maybe do need a Robin Hood figure to bring down the people in power.
Is it Robin?
I do like Robin. This is a good Robin.
This is a good Robin.
Best Robin?
Probably. I think it was John Byrne. You know John Byrne?
I know the name.
He was the artist for Dark Phoenix. He did some Fantastic Four. He's a major comic dude.
Right.
Apparently, when Frank Miller first said he had been given this assignment, because he was given this assignment, it wasn't like, I want to make this Batman story.
Okay.
It was like, they'd seen the Daredevil list, so they were like, do that thing with Batman. And John Byrne, he already decided he was doing it in the future. And John Byrne was, if you're going to do the future, then Robin needs to be a girl this time. So, again, he took that advice.
Smart.
And Carrie is, here's the other thing, the other Robins, Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and what's the other guy, Tim something?
I can't remember Tim.
Well,
then there's Damian Wayne after that.
He's just, that's past my time.
Tim Drake.
There we go. Anyway, they all kind of, I think, did Tim Drake kind of, that was after this though.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Because when you could tell this was written when there had been no Robin since Jason Todd. Because within this story there has been no Robin since Jason.
Jason Todd died in the comics like a year after this.
Really?
Yeah, that tripped me out. I was like, he kind of like, maybe they'd give him the news early, but no, because that was supposed to be a phone call thing, right? Where people decided if Jason Todd died or not. Anyway, Frank Miller, I think, just assumed Jason was dead before Jason was actually dead, which was actually a good move.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. That's really weird.
Pretty sure Dark Knight Returns predates Death in the Family, where Jason Todd dies. Anyway.
Did you check this?
I'm going by my personal chronology. You can check it if you want.
I'm going to have to check, because if so, that's insane.
Do check it. In the meantime, we were Jason. Oh, yeah, the first two Robins. Dick Grayson was he's in the circus. His parents died, and Batman takes him in. Jason Todd, similar situation. He was already in a bad situation, but he's stealing the hubs off the Batmobile or something.
Interesting thing. They first brought Jason Todd in with basically the exact same origin as Dick.
When was he stealing the hubcaps off the Batmobile?
Shortly after, they decided to retcon it because it was boring that he was just the same character again.
Okay. Anyway, in both cases...
the one that we think of now is the one who stole the hubcaps off the Batmobile, yeah.
In both cases, he's just brought in by Batman. But Carrie here is very actively trying to become Robin. It's been 10 years. I mean, at this point, you're not supposed to talk about superheroes. In the comics specifically, they're like, oh, you can't talk about Superman on TV. The FCC will come after us.
1986, Dark Knight Returns, Death in the Family, 1988.
Yeah, okay. Being nuts has some has some perks because I can remember stuff well. Anyway, yeah. Carrie decides to become Robin on her own, and Batman, like, you know, in a half screwed up daze takes her, and Alfred's like, send her back before you come back, and go to a hospital, by the way. And he's like, no, this is my Robin. At which point he immediately goes back to the Batcave and strips naked to stroll around in the bats and the...
Yeah, he says, like, oh, I'm going to go and kill myself or whatever.
The comic has Alfred saying that, by the way. He says,
right, no, yeah.
Is it Alfred?
No,
okay.
It's Alfred said it. I thought he was going to go and jump in a Ra's al Ghul. What are those bats called?
Lazarus pools?
Yeah, I thought he had a Lazarus pit.
How do I remember that? It's amazing. Okay.
Oh, so just to go back to Jason Todd for a second. The editor who took over in '86 had already decided to kill him, basically.
Oh.
So he probably did tell Miller, yeah, we're killing him off now.
That runs bullshit, because the story was they published an issue where the Joker whaps him with a crowbar, which Billy Berserk does to Batman here, by the way. I noticed that's how Robin died, is the way Batman almost dies. But the whole thing was they put out the issue where Joker beats Jason Todd with a crowbar and sets a bomb. And like, okay, call this number or this number. Does Robin live or die?
Yeah, I remember that being a thing. I'm pretty sure they bullshitted, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Could they turn around a comic book in a month back then?
It depends on the artist and the writer.
But I mean, in terms of like printing them, getting them to stores.
This one in particular, by the way, I said the editor that did Batman was the editor-in-chief.
Yeah.
He did the first 2 issues of this and got so pissed off with Frank Miller skipping deadlines that he was not involved in the second
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
But Tim also he decided to become Robin.
Yeah, I did read that, but it was forgettable because I forgot about it.
Just copy Carrie, I guess.
Okay, it's forgettable because I forgot about it, basically. Otherwise, I'd remember it.
But to me, that's a less creepy version of Robin.
Yeah.
Going back, the Lego Batman music is Batman movie is basically this Robin, right?
I think that's the part I forgot. I remember the Joker wanting Batman, just wanted Batman, and say he hates him. But
I love the first scene of that where he's giving him the Joker, you mean nothing to me. But yeah, that's the most interesting version of Joker.
It's such a good parody because it's parodying this. Right. They don't, it's a Lego movie. You can't do The Dark Knight Returns too hard, but you can definitely do that aspect, which they do well.
Yeah. And then that was Heath Ledger's Joker as well.
Yeah, but he didn't... See, this Joker has tons of history with Batman, so it works so well. Heath Ledger's Joker, which is great. I love it. But
again, it's that problem of trying to squeeze 50 years of comic books into 2 hours of
Right,
movie.
he's only been the Joker for a little while. And actually, maybe that's why The Dark Knight is such a good movie, because in that short period, the Joker earns his stripes, right? He's the Joker by the end of that movie.
Well, yeah, because he starts the movie planning to kill Batman and then realizes it's more fun to have this back and forth with him.
Yeah.
and it's just... For a number of reasons, it's a shame that the actor died, because it would have been interesting to see them continue past one movie.
Because he didn't die in that movie, did he?
He arrested him, so that... then the next movie has Bane breaking all the villains out.
Yeah. That's the first superhero movie where the superhero does not take out the villain, I think. Like, kill him.
It's pretty rare.
Well, Magneto doesn't get killed, but...
Spider-Man 3, he let Sandman go.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was before or after Dark Knight.
I think it was a year before.
Yeah. Spider-Man generally, though, is...
He's a little more chill.
Yeah, well...
I mean...
That's one of the reasons I loved Homecoming so much, is that he actually is trying to save Vulture for most of that film.
Yeah. We know Batman has chosen not to kill people. Right. We know Spider-Man is not going to kill people.
Right. It's not in his nature at all. Well, like, and Batman Begins, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Yeah. That's
Spider-Man would try and save him.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's another thing we talked about him as a rogue gallery, but we do need to talk him now in our little hero section. Superman's here one more time. A little more on Superman. And on the hero angle, we talked about him from the villain angle.
Yeah. Well, obviously we see him... I don't like that he is literally fighting the Russians as a soldier, but the scene of him stopping the atom bomb was great.
But he's for, what? Truth, justice, and the American way. If he's for the American way, speaking here as an American, then he has to follow the president's, Ronnie Reagan's orders and go screw up some shit in Porto Maltese.
What does the American way mean? Because at this point, the American way is fucking imperialism.
It is.
There's nothing, And
it is in this movie, too. That's the whole point.
Well, yeah, there's little jokes, like, we have to protect our interest. I mean, the innocent people of Porto Maltese.
But yeah,
that's only become more relevant.
Yeah, no. His whole shtick is, I have to support the American way, and the president of America, Reagan, is getting him, go kill these dark people.
Yep. But yeah, I feel like I always interpret that more as the American ideal than literally following the American government. So but this is a different interpretation.
Does this Superman have any idealism left, or is he dead inside, like Bruce?
Yeah, he's dead inside, just in the other direction. Bruce is just like fuck the system, or Superman has become part of the system.
I'll become an automaton. But Superman's very powerful, but like you said, he's a man. Yeah. And there's a certain point where, do you have to become part of the automaton, or just go hide? Bruce hides for a while.
Well, Superman has the powers of a god, but the mind of a man.
Right.
Whereas Batman is the body of a man, but he is a myth. He's made himself not a man.
Superman's a myth here. Again, the FCC is not supposed to mention him on air.
Yeah.
and he's a blur most of the time.
Mm. But this world knew that Superman did exist.
But not now.
Mm.
Sorry to keep going back to Dark Knight Strikes Again, but when Superman finally does make a public appearance, everyone's like, whoa, I didn't think he was real. Oh my God, he's here again.
But 20 years later, you would, like...
Yeah, then Brainiac shows up, blackmails them, and Clark's like, well, I'm not going to leave, but I'm not going to fight you. At which point, everyone just watches Superman get the shit kicked out of him by Brainiac. It's weird. When that comic came out, the sequel... Everyone hated it. I hated it. But reading again, I'm like, whoa, Frank Miller had his finger on the pulse.
I need to check it out again.
That's why I need to read part 3 and I guess the part 4 that's currently
Well, you just need to read them in 30 years' time, I guess.
Yeah. Man. Well, it's been 5 years since part 3, so hey, maybe that one's good to go.
That's insane. I feel like part 2 just came out. But one more. Superman does have one nice little moment at the very end when he notices Batman's still alive and he gives Robin the little wink.
Right.
There is still some of the Superman I love.
He gets pissed off about that in the sequel too, though. It's like Bruce said he was going to stay down forever, and now he's not.
I haven't seen or read that, so...
Yeah.
There were a lot of just lines and scenes and images in this. Because I hadn't read the comic for maybe 10 or 15 years, right?
Right.
Which I'd forgotten every single piece of Batman media since this comic book has been ripping off this comic book.
I guess
way more hardcore than I realized.
This is, I guess, the first gritty reboot. Possibly Daredevil counting beforehand, also Frank Miller.
Right.
So Frank Miller is your gritty reboot man.
Yep. When did Watchmen come out?
87.
Before this? After this, sorry?
And there are a lot of parallels, aren't there?
Yeah. A lot. But, because I guess Superman is kind of a...
Ozymandias? Yeah.
But, because I remember Alan Moore saying he did it as kind of a, what if comic books were gritty and dark? Not expecting everyone to just, the next 20 years of comic books to be that. He was doing it as a one-off interesting thing, but Frank Miller, I guess, was trying to reinvent the genre.
This is the master class in gritty reboot. Even if it wasn't the first, this is how you do it for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I've made my feelings on Superman clear, we'll move on from that, but...
Well, it's a Batman movie, so if they screwed up Superman a little bit...
Fair enough.
They basically got Batman.
Has Miller done Superman?
I think he might have.
I bet that was terrible.
I don't know if Miller's done
because they've tried to gritty reboot Superman a few times.
While we're talking about him,
work.
When he made this when he made this comic book, it made him a comic book superstar, but
Yeah.
you'd still need to be on like geek level 28 to know who he was.
Yeah.
Since we've had things like Sin City, he's now
300.
he's on geek level 3. You know, you got to give maybe 2 touches deep, but
Yeah,
then
if
you
you're
know
working
Frank
in a
Miller.
studio and someone says we want to adapt this, it was by Frank Miller. Instant green light, I think.
Yeah, his game has been climbing. Even when he did the first comic book sequel of this, I still think he was comic book Frank Miller. He hadn't become like sort of pop culture Frank Miller, which he is now. Again,
I think he was on the cusp, but yeah.
he is on the cusp, but
I
now
think like 300 and Sin City were upon us.
like basically it's not just comic book guys; it's pop culture guys that know him now.
Yeah.
A few geek levels deep, but yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
But that was just an interesting point on its own. You didn't need to now
Okay.
make it weird.
Okay. But anyway, when we made this, he's definitely a comic book guy, and
Right.
it had a fair amount in, influence on comic books. We did Dark Phoenix, and I kept talking about Claremont, and Claremont went notably darker after Dark Knight Returns came out. That's when we had the Mutant Massacre, and just like real and Storm goes dark and all that.
Well, then, yeah, throughout the 90s, you've got like Todd McFarlane takes over Spider-Man.
Spawn, also Todd
Superman
McFarlane.
dies.
Kind of.
He dies because they wanted to schedule his wedding with the TV show.
They made a movie for that too, by the way.
I don't know if I need to see that.
I don't either, but it could be something to talk about sometime.
Well, let's talk about movies of this and of Superman dying. Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
That's one which is going to go on the let's do a podcast about films I hate one day.
Here's the thing. I have seen that movie maybe 3 times now. I don't like it, but I kind of like to watch it. Why is that?
It will one day be taught in film school as every mistake you can make in making a film in one film.
I guess it's like we talked about like a few weeks ago how our coworkers like, oh, I like the Justice League because they just got them all up on the screen together, right?
Yeah.
Dawn of Justice kind of is, it's Superman and Batman
but
on the
that's
screen.
the thing. It's neither Superman nor Batman in that film.
Yeah.
They're both done so wrong. Because
Doesn't Batman just cap people in there?
yeah, he kills loads of people. And like, for me, the reason Batman vs Superman is an interesting fight is because they both don't kill, but neither of them can be stopped unless you kill them, right? So how do these two come to blows? And in this, they do it well. Batman just
Pummels.
He pummels Superman to the point
And
where
then dies.
He knows Superman will come back, right? But Superman will always know he was beaten, which is perfect. It's so good. And then Batman vs Superman steals a lot of the imagery from this, has the armor and everything.
Yeah.
But Batman's just trying to kill him in that.
That did blow my mind when I first saw it. Just like,
Yeah, yeah.
holy crap, that's the Dark Knight Returns armor.
When I saw that trailer, I was so up for that film because I like Man of Steel.
Yeah, I did too, actually.
I mean, it's not perfect by any stretch, but
It's
the fights
Christopher
were cool. The
Reeve's
music was
first
good.
2 are better, at least.
Yeah,
3 and 4, yeah. 3's got Richard Pryor, though. That's fun.
an interesting story about that film. Apparently, Superman creators really liked Richard Pryor, so they didn't want to write any jokes because they thought, oh, we can't write anything better than what Richard Pryor will ad-lib. Richard Pryor is a big Superman fan and didn't want to go off script, so the film just ended up with no good jokes.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one for a while. I do have it. No, I'll watch you.
Somewhere I've got a box set of all 4 back in the UK, but
Yeah.
I would, if I had to sit down and watch one, I would think I would sooner sit down and watch 4 than 3.
I'd go for the Lester cut of 2.
No, but I mean, if
Oh,
just the
3
3
and
and 4.
4.
Of the
on-
bad ones, it's
yeah.
bad in a more fun
Yeah,
way.
yeah, it's fun to watch, where 4 is depressing to watch.
What? No, I'd say 4 is more fun to watch. Because 4 is just batshit broken, whereas
Okay,
3 is just a bit boring.
The last time I saw 4 is when I rented it off of VHS as a new release.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that was when you were still hoping it was going to be good, right?
Probably.
Whereas I saw it knowing, I think the first time I saw it, I already knew it was infamously terrible.
When they put out the next Superman movie, we'll do Superman a month and do it.
Okay.
But we'll just do the Christopher Reeve ones. Because we're doing All-Star Superman probably sooner than that.
No, let's do Returns. Let's do 3, 4, Returns. Man
What
of
Returns?
Steel.
That's not a movie. Honestly, I like that one fine, but I feel like we've really forgotten about that one.
Yep. I like the airplane bit. That's about it.
Yeah.
Superman Returns is just sad man lifts progressively heavier objects.
This one is Sad Man lifts progressively more awesome objects. Or
Well, this one is
excuse me, punches.
Sad man punches more progressively more different foes. Yep.
But it works better that way.
But then also in the Nolan films, there's a lot of motifs and lines taken directly from this. Which now none of them are coming to my mind.
The Batman rounding the troops to take back Gotham is very similar. Old man Bruce with a cane. Christopher Bale is not old enough to come across as old man Batman, but he's still trying to do
But
it.
also just Batman retired because you can't do that to your body. And like, if anything, it was more realistic in the films because you could only be Batman for like 3 years before every part of your body is fucked.
Well,
and you need 8 years
again,
off.
I don't remember if they say in the movie, but has Alfred saying, "Oh, you're going in a walking hospital bed,"
Yeah.
and he's going to fight Superman.
Yeah, no, he did say that in the
Okay, so that's notable as well.
Also, so Dark Knight Rises was kind of an adaptation of this story, right? He's been away and he comes back.
A lot of Bane, but yeah.
But then there's the scene of...
Do your Bane real quick. I gotta hear your Bane.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light till I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blind.
That's a lot of Bane, man.
I don't know, I started to quite have to finish it.
This great city.
When I edit, I'm gonna have to turn up those bits of...
Perhaps you're wondering why you would shoot a man before throwing him out of a plane.
No, the scene I'm thinking of very specifically is when Batman first comes back, and there's like the old cop and the young cop.
Oh, right.
And they're like, oh, you're in for a show tonight, boy.
And he goes and tries to stop him anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, that scene was lifted for Dark Knight Rises.
Who would go and try and stop Batman if you're a cop? I mean,
Well, a kid who didn't grow up knowing who Batman was,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. Just it's like Chiba Batman. Did you hear about Chiba Batman?
No.
Oh, we live in Japan. Chiba is a prefecture. And for several years, there was a dude that would just ride around on a motorcycle in a Batman costume.
Nice. There's a couple guys in Nagano who walk around in full luchador outfits picking up trash. Because there's no crime to stop, really. So that's how you be a superhero in Japan.
Yeah, that's not
That's
awesome.
why all their superheroes fight monsters, right?
Yeah.
Because there isn't really street crime in Japan. I mean, there's like organized crime,
Yeah, but
but it doesn't manifest in front of you.
Chiba Batman knows. how to do
Just
it.
cruises around on a bike. Doesn't do
After I
anything.
say Chiba, I had to go Batman. Chiba Batman. Excuse me. We're not being offensive here. You just sometimes you live in Japan, you have to switch to the Japanese pronunciation. If you want a coffee, you can't say I want a coffee. You have to be a coffee onegaishimasu.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, coffee, sorry. Hockey. Oh, okay, I understand now.
Yeah, you have to do it. It's not an offensive thing. You get used
My
to doing
favourite
it.
thing is when I'm with one of my friends who properly speaks Japanese, right? But then they're ordering something which has an English name, but doing it in the... So when I go for dinner with Rob and he orders, he's like, Chizu burger. And I know why he's doing it, because that's how you say it, but it just sounds like he's taking the piss. Because he'll be talking to me in English and then turn to the person and be like, Chizu burger.
So, listen, people, when you live in Japan, it's not offensive. You have to do it if you want things.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of English words are converted into Japanese, which uses a phonetic alphabet. So it's made up of syllables which are close to the English word, but not always quite it. And you get into the habit of saying words in that way.
But if you want a
Sandwichi.
RoboCop Batman... we got to talk about... is it better to do the RoboCop Batman voice? You're mine, scum. Or is I'm Batman better?
People mock it. I'm a fan of the Bale Batman. Because it's him putting on a voice, right?
Yeah.
He puts on the mask and that's his voice.
Here's my take.
Here, Bruce and Batman pretty much sound the same.
Yeah. I like RoboCop Batman better. But if I want to do a Batman voice, I'm of course going to do the Bale voice. Where are the other drugs going? Because, another direct lift in here, we got the Hood, in this case the mutant at the top of the tower.
hanging
He's
upside
like,
down, yeah,
he's like, you don't understand, son, you're at the top. Where Bale is like, swear to me! I like both.
Yeah, they both work.
And I'm going to do swear to me if I have to, do
Especially
my
if it's a good line.
interpretation.
So good.
I'm going to pose this question to you a little differently this week.
None?
Not the comic, but why hasn't this movie held up? I don't think people know about it. I watched it because I'm a hardcore fan of the comic, and I loved it. But I had to introduce it to you.
So is it just... So these movies, these DC animated movies, they've all been pretty much straight to DVD releases based on specific... So are people just... I did it myself, just assuming they're not good.
No, Flashpoint's good. New Frontiers is great. Under the Red
but
Hood.
you have to watch one to know this,
You
right?
have to watch one to know
You
it.
see them on the shelf. It's like, well, that art on the front just looks like the comic book. I've been stung, in the past buying, oh, cool, an animated thing based on something I like, and then it barely is. It's like a shitty Flash animation.
Once you watch one, you gotta watch more. And
Yeah, now I know they're good. I'm really keen to watch.
And listeners, tell us if you want us to do some DC animated, because I have most of them. Hey,
But I really want to watch All Star Superman now because I love that comic book, and if it's done as well as this is,
I'm gonna say it is. Okay.
so yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I really don't. I guess just they haven't been marketed well. Like they should just fucking put these in the theaters instead of the
No, I was
live
gonna say,
action ones they're
like,
making.
DC's. I mean, like I was saying, I kind of like watching Dawn of Justice for some reason. I don't know. I sort of enjoyed Justice League, but yeah, they don't hold a candle to the Marvel film cinematic universe thing, right?
Right.
But the DC animated universe is way better than the Marvel animated
And it kind of
universe.
always has been, right?
And it
Remember, like, Batman the animated series in the
Yeah.
90s?
And they did the Superman one.
Like,
Justice
Marvel
League.
had cartoons at that time, like X-Men and Spider-Man. But they were just, like, Saturday morning.
Well, compare that
crap.
to the Justice League cartoon.
Whereas
though.
the DC stuff was, like, groundbreaking animation, just gorgeous, sumptuously made stuff.
And they've been breaking more ground since. I feel like maybe I just quit paying attention, but have they been making so many of these in the past couple of years?
I think they're still coming out. Yeah.
Okay. Because I said before about Under Red Hood, Flashpoint, just, oh my god, they're good. They're as good as any Marvel films, and better than the live-action DC ones.
Yeah. Yeah, like, the live-action DC films often have very good cinematography, but they're terrible films. Whereas this doesn't need to have good cinematography because it just takes that straight from the comic book.
I feel like the more recent DC films have even lost that cinematography.
Oh, like the Shazam and Aquaman and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, just because Zack
You
Snyder...
and I went to Aquaman. We loved Aquaman. I did it again. Aquaman. How do you even say it? Anyway, we went to it. We loved it.
In a
But
British
yeah.
accent, you'd say Aquaman. I think in an American, you'd say Aquaman.
I don't even know anymore. Anyway, you and I went to see it, and we loved it. But yeah, it is, it's campy.
Yeah, it's just a big dumb romp, right?
Yeah.
And I've heard that Shazam is pretty fun.
I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Me too. I don't know why, because I even enjoyed the trailer.
I watched the 1940s or 50s serial of Captain Marvel, so I
Nice.
should really watch Shazam. And I've watched Buck Rogers in the 30s. I watched that.
DC
I watched the Batman serial.
Oh, no, I actually
the
kind of want to see
40s.
that. Yeah.
Oh well, it's real. I think Batman fights the Japanese in some.
Oh, cool.
And he just lives in a house or something. It's like real. I mean, there's many very lame, entertaining. Cause
I've seen he's got basically just devil horns instead of the proper bat.
yeah, there were so many things about Batman that hadn't been just solidified yet.
Yeah.
Where they could take cheap cut corners, they would, and it's funny where they cut the corners.
Nice.
And there's two ones, by the way. There's two Batman serials that are unrelated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I knew there were two. I didn't know I haven't seen it either.
They're not connected. They're different iterations, and neither of them work that well. But they're real fun to watch.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
But DC does have a prominence on TV. Arrow and Flash and Supergirl. That stuff's still pretty popular.
Well, even then, I watched The Flash when it was the early '90s. It was one
I
season.
saw a couple of those. Yeah.
I remember being pissed off because President Bush interrupted an episode. To make, I guess, downstream attack on Iraq or something. I don't remember. But they I was recording it on VHS, and I couldn't get the episode. And they never re-aired it.
Oh, that's
I never
pretty
saw
lame.
it. I never saw it till 2004 when they put out the DVD set.
Wow.
It's not a very good show, but you know what? It's kind of a good show, but the new Flash is better.
But they did bring back that Flash as his dad in the new one.
Yeah, I love that.
And Mark Hamill's villain came back.
And I think, and the female lead from there also shows up as the lead scientist of the rival lab.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they
pretty
did
fun.
they did respect the old show.
Yeah.
But the new one's mostly better. Here's the thing though, I watched season 1, I loved it. I watched season 2, I loved it. I watched half of season 3, they went off for Christmas, and I never cared. It's been like
watched it
2 years now.
when I was living in the UK, and it was on a TV channel, and I could watch it once a week as TV. It is not a show that I could sit and binge like you do with shows these days.
I'd watch like
It's
one every
very
night.
much like network television pacing and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's when I could watch like a full episode of television every night for a while, which I can't do anymore. But yeah, I the first 2 seasons I liked. Season 3, I was like, well, they're doing the same story again.
I think I had that even with season 2.
Season 2, I had
I was
that.
like, oh, here's another fast villain.
Well, here's one. First one was Dr. Zoom,
I think so. I don't know if they ever call him.
and the second one was Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
Which I thought was the same character, but apparently it's not.
But then, like, the third season was another speedster, right?
Scimitar, which I think was just Barry Allen from like a different universe or something.
Okay.
Anyway, at that point, I was like, whatever.
Because they built up to doing their own, like, Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever. at the
They did
moment.
Flashpoint.
But no, but they're currently doing a Crisis on Infinite Earth. They got Superman's, Batman's.
But on
But
network TV,
They brought back, like, Tom Welling, Superman.
Yeah.
They've
Oh, I
got,
heard about that.
Brandon Ruth is playing Kingdom Come Superman.
Yeah.
So they're doing something. I kind of want to see that, but
It sounds like too much of a.
but also
commitment.
Supergirl was really good.
You know what? I want to watch more DC animated films.
But yeah, I
Don't screw
want to
around
see.
with it.
Like, the point I was making, they should just put these in theaters. These are good films.
Like I said, I sort of sold this to you as like, this is actually my favorite Batman film.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Like, yes, it is. I like the Nolan ones. This one's better.
I think
Okay, so let me put
I
that
would
to you.
rate the Nolan ones.
Let
but-
me put it, because I sold this to you rating this as my favorite actual Batman film. How about you?
I think I still prefer the Nolan ones, but this is better than anything else.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's because I've been reading this comic since 1989 or whatever, and like the Nolan ones are great, but here I'm like, oh yeah, this is Batman.
See, this is, to me, it is like a weird future offshoot Batman.
It is.
Whereas Nolan felt like he was trying to do the story of Batman.
Yeah.
And I think he captured that well,
No,
beginning to end.
this one is sort of in retcon. This is now Earth 31 in the DC
Of course it is,
universe.
yeah.
And
And
that-
also, if we're doing future Batman, I like Batman Beyond better.
I don't know much about Batman Beyond, to be honest.
It's the same, basically the same story, but instead of him coming back, the kid who would be Robin is the Batman.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he's just like there as a mentor figure.
Yeah, I've heard good things, but yeah, I was always like, I like
Yeah, also,
this
yeah,
film.
I watched it when I was a kid and it was on Saturday. It probably doesn't hold up
That's
that well.
that's why I stopped reading Batman comics. I'm like, oh, it's not Bruce Wayne. Fuck it.
Was that when it was Azrael?
Yeah. They
I read all
Nightfall.
of those after, but that was, to me, reading it now, that was so obviously a temporary stunt.
So was killing Superman. So was relaunching the X-Men. 90s comic books blew.
But like recently they did Spider-Man, like Doc Ock was Spider-Man for a while. People
yeah.
were like, oh my god, the death of Peter. I'm like, he'll be back. Give it 2 years, he'll be back. Like,
If nothing else, they'll blow up the whole universe and start a new one.
Marvel don't do that as much as DC though.
No, DC loves to do it every few years now.
Yeah.
But I haven't followed any comic books since Grant Morrison wrote X-Men, so.
The only comic books I properly follow anymore are Transformers. So I went to Tokyo and found the one issue I was missing, which was pretty satisfying.
Oh, right.
300 yen.
Yeah.
Bargain.
Are we winding down? I think
I
we're
guess
winding
so.
down.
Yeah, well, because we don't have a good answer for why these movies aren't popular.
You should be. Go watch some.
Yeah.
I won't shout them again, but go back and listen to the ones I shout out and watch those.
Well, just find the list, and if there's one that you're like, oh, I remember that comic book story being
it's
good.
probably pretty good in the
then, yeah,
animated
they've probably
form.
done it well.
They're putting some money into the animation. That is 2007 after. I think Justice League New Frontiers was the first of the current
Okay.
DC animated universe, so it's New Frontiers on, and they've been pretty solid.
Maybe the ones before that are the kind of straight TV trash that I was expecting, and that's what put me off.
I couldn't say, but I've seen at least 7 or 8 of these that were fantastic. So, just like Marvel films, I've seen 7 or 8 of those that were fantastic. So, anyway, plug.
Okay, so you can find us on Twitter at MLSFSPod. Just think, Matt, Luke, Sci-Fi, Sanctuary, Pod. There you go. MLSFS
Sometimes it's
pod.
the other way.
I try and make it not the other way.
It is the other way a lot. I think on iTunes it's the other way.
Yeah, it's because...
It doesn't matter.
But yeah.
Do it one way there. It should come up in a search engine.
Well, I mean, as long as you don't put it in speech marks, then hopefully Google's smart enough to swap the names around.
When we start, I put your name first because when I was doing music, right, from the mid-'90s, I was always like alphabetical order.
Yeah, to me, I don't know, just Matt and Luke rolls off the tongue for me.
Yeah,
Luke
the funny
and
thing is, I decided that when I was like 13 years old or whatever. When I started writing songs, like always alphabetical. And after that, like everyone, my last name is Commages, starts with a C. And all the musicians I worked with after that always had like last names that began with A or B.
Huh. I think I tell you what it is. It's the hard K on Luke. Luke canned kind of puts a stopper in the phrase, but Matt and Luke rolls off better.
Oh, okay. Anyway, either way, you can, we have a 900 number you can call to decide which way.
Which one of us lives and which one of us dies?
Your podcast, other podcast, because
I do a Pokemon podcast as well. I guess you should check that one out. Luke loves Pokemon. I just cover a different Pokemon family every week. As we're recording, I've just taken a week off, but I'll be back on it soon. Matt makes music. You can find that at rovingsagemedia.bandcamp.com. He's just put some albums out. Check those out. If you've been listening to this podcast and you like the musical interludes, you already know you like Matt's music.
Your podcast should be back online by the time this airs. This will be like January 24th or something.
Yeah, so we've got Black Hole next week, and then we'll be into Fuck You February.
Fuck you!
We're going to be covering films beginning with F, starting with The Fifth Element.
The other ones you have to guess about, though I think I mentioned one last podcast.
Well, I've been saying for a while, should we just start actually telling people what films we're doing so they can watch along with us?
No, I like this because now they know two, right? They know.
Next week and the week after, yeah.
I actually did mention a third, but not in the context of Fuck You February, so. This has been Matt.
This has been Luke.
You will now
get the fuck
out of our sanctuary,
bitch.
Next week, the Black Hole.
When time slows, she won't know which way to go. She will come to the gates of right. But this will pass. She will perform the sacred task. She will see the ancient facts and gets around. Entering the gates around. The steel will rust. The sun turns the seas to dust. She will come to the gates of right. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Entering the gates of right. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. But this will pass. She will perform the ancient task. She will come to the gates of right. Oh, hallelujah. Oh,